Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Paradigm Shift. Today, we're in conversation with Simran Oberoi Multani. Welcome, Simran. How are you this evening?
Hi, welcome. Thank you so much for having me here, Deepshika. I'm very happy to be here.
Same here. I mean, you seem so humble and so sweet, and now I'm going to read out a whole lot of things, all the storm that you're raking up all over the place. Let me just this thing, okay? So,
Sure.
Simran Oberoi Multani, she's a founder of Oh Wonderful Mom Bakers Community. First of all, I love that name. Oh Wonderful, I can think
Thank you.
wonderful. Oh Wonderful, it's beautiful. Okay. She's a healthy baking evangelist, social entrepreneur, community leader for over 35,000 plus strong members. A wonderful mom baker community is a global recognized award winning healthy baking community and is creating a huge social impact. Simran has been recognized by Sheryl Sandberg as one of the most powerful, one of the most powerful, influential Facebook community leaders in Asia. She is a TEDx speaker and a SHEROES Champion. Simran conducts workshops with schools, corporate organizations like Nissan, Unilever, Indus Early Learning, and Poorna. Her work has been covered in Economic Times, Indian Express, Sunday Standard, The Telegraph, Deccan Herald, Times of India, Deccan Chronicle, DNA. That's like about everything, all the newspapers. And she's a mom to two little humans and two senior adopted canine kids.
Yeah.
How
Yes.
sweet is that?
Thank you.
Welcome, welcome again, Simran. So nice to
Thank
have
you
you
so
on
much.
board.
Very happy to be here, Deepshika. I think the introduction, is so long, but actually, I'm just doing things which I enjoy doing. So I'm glad to be here.
So sweet, so sweet. I love the word evangelist. So I actually
Right.
looked it up and I was like, what is this? And that it just says so much that, somebody who's so passionately
Right.
preaching and, trying to convince people and all that. So I was like, okay, that is one thing that I can add to my resume also because I'm all the
Absolutely.
time.
Absolutely.
I love that word.
Absolutely.
Thank you
Very
so
true.
much. Okay, so Simran, tell us about your childhood days. I mean, were you always cooking up something? Did your mom and dad have to do anything with this? How is this
Uh,
passion? Like,
so I'm born and brought up in Calcutta, and I have, to be very honest, I think if you met anybody who knows me from my childhood, or if you ask my parents, I had no inclination to cook. I didn't know how to cook. I had no inclination to cook. My mom is a
okay,
very good cook, but
okay,
I think I was extremely. Even if I would try to come into the kitchen, like just in passing, she would say, no, 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 go ahead, go and study. And I used to
okay,
love studying. I think I just somehow didn't develop any alternative habit and alternative hobby,
okay.
apart from basically studying and reading. I loved reading then, I love reading now. But I think,
Huh,
I didn't develop an interest in cooking until much later, and baking, of course, even
okay.
later than that. So
Huh,
I had a very, from a growing up point of view, I had a very normal, childhood, and enjoyed myself, enjoyed the cooking, enjoyed everybody else making it for me, but then, but didn't end up
okay. You didn't end up in the
actually
kitchen.
end up in the kitchen
Cooking
at
and
all. In fact,
something.
bilkul bhi nahi, and I think I ended up entering the kitchen because I was forced to, so I had like, I
Okay.
had no option, but I had to eat, right? And I was staying alone in a city like
Okay.
Bombay. The salary I couldn't afford a cook.
Okay.
Eating outside was not an option. So yeah,
Okay.
much
This
later in
is
life.
during
Yeah.
your college. This is
No,
about
no,
college
after I
days.
started working, college also,
Oh,
I was very happily eating in the hostel.
okay.
No inclination to try and cook and bake. I did
Okay.
nothing. Then, in
Okay.
fact, in my first couple of jobs, also staying as a PG, had somebody deliver dabba, staying with
Okay.
family friends, somebody was
Right.
cooking.
Okay.
Much
So
later in life,
nothing.
much later.
Okay.
No, much
Okay.
later, 2007, 2008. Very
Okay.
late.
So tell us, when did this paradigm shift happen to you? When did you actually get into baking? How did this change come over?
So this essentially, happened when my son turned a year old. My son is born in 2012, end of 2012, and
Okay.
by the time he turned a year old, 2013, post a year old, I realized that, I don't know for what reason, I just kind of started realizing that what we've been eating ourselves is something I would never feed him. If I was
Junk.
reading those labels, yeah, I was reading those labels, I was, becoming more aware, I was becoming more conscious of the fact that, what is it that is there in these biscuits, in these breads, in these kind of things which have become so regular in our consumption pattern, right? It's not like we are
Right.
not eating it, we are
Yes.
not eating it for days. I mean, people who are eating biscuits, some of them will eat every day. Okay.
Yes.
So, I mean, if even if I have to eat it alternate days, or even if my child has to eat it every 2, 3 days, I just don't want to feed him that. So that was something that kind of triggered the chain that, if I'm not going to feed him this, what is the alternative? The alternative is I need to do it myself. Okay.
Right.
And the good part for me was that he had been exposed to alternate flours like ragi and all by because we were staying in Bangalore. That was his first
Okay.
food. So I thought
Okay.
that since he's already exposed and familiar with these tastes, let me try with these flours because these are whether it's atta, whether it's whole wheat, whether it's ragi, let me try and see, if something works out, if there's something that it becomes edible and then he eats it. So that's how my journey of healthy baking really started because it was entirely driven by the fact that, he was a year and a half, 2 years in that range. And then
Right.
as a toddler, of course, constantly, looking for options to make him eat something, which was
Right.
interesting. And,
Right.
I didn't want to give him chips. So I wanted to look at crackers, which I wanted to make at home. So did a lot
Yeah.
of research, didn't find
Right.
much information, did a lot of experiments,
Yeah.
figured out some stuff,
Yeah.
and
Right.
then along the way
Right.
started doing more
Right.
baking. Yeah.
So nice. So, what was that moment, when you actually converted baking to social impact? During our conversations, you have said that. So, when was
Yeah.
the shift that, you started baking, but then, tell us that journey.
So that is a little earlier than my healthy baking shift. So I'll give you a background of that. That was in 2010. I was in Gurgaon, staying in Gurgaon, and I just happened to visit this NGO called Searchers. And I decided that, I just went to meet them because I was writing a piece. I was freelance. I was
Okay.
working already full time, and I was also writing some small stuff for them. I was writing a little bit about what they
Okay.
do. And the founder there, he asked me that, would you like to take some classes here? I said, I cannot teach them anything. I don't know anything. So,
Oh.
so he said that what do you do on your weekends? And I
Hmm.
just started baking. I just started doing regular baking, not healthy
Okay.
baking, regular baking. So
Hmm.
I said, I am baking a little on the weekends
Hmm.
and, other days I'm anyways working full time. So that doesn't give me too much time to bake, but I'm doing that.
Yeah.
So he said, why don't you teach them how to bake? And I think that is, I mean, it takes a leap of faith because I realized that it's a huge responsibility. There were these girls who were coming from rural Haryana, villages there, thinking of this as a vocational skill which is going to make them financially independent, it's going to make them employable. And I mean, I just don't know, I think it was his push and my mom being there with me at that point in time, and that combined energy that you should give this some thought. And I
Yeah.
realized that, I wanted, it just took me a few seconds to say, I'm going to do this. And I think that is where it all, started. So I started taking, volunteer classes for them. I would go every weekend, to do baking classes with them. I learned so much in the process. I would get questions from them like, but Didi, aap, uh, oven mein dikha rahe ho, we have no electricity in our homes. Can you please teach us how to bake in the cooker? And imagine, so, and that is, I would go back and then I would do the trials in the cooker and then I would come back and say, now I know how to teach you how to bake in the cooker.
Wow.
So, so I mean, that is when I realized that there is, I mean, at every given point in time, no matter how Oh Wonderful shapes up, whether it remains a blog, whether it becomes anything more, whether I do anything with it, the one thing I will always do is I will make sure that I have I have a social connect throughout. In whichever way I can use that skill to, take it to
Right.
people or do
Right.
something with it to make a
Right.
difference. I'm going to do that. So I think that is that point in time that it happened.
So good. So you're like multitasking, you're cooking and you have babies and you have your canine kids and everything, and then you have your 35,000 strong
Members.
community. So how do you balance all these things?
um, I think, I mean, I feel there are two things actually. One is that I'm super organized. Okay. So I have a lot of, I'm not saying this because I am, this thing. So, but I am super organized, So I
Okay.
make a
Okay.
lot of, yeah. So I make a lot of lists about what I need to do and I follow it up, and I make a note of how actively I want to do it. and what I need to
Okay.
do. The second thing
Okay.
I'm very, very particular about is that I don't pick up more than one or two things at any given point in time. So I think people are very worried that, we need to do these 10 things. And, I honestly say this everywhere. I am not a superwoman. Okay. I
Okay.
don't want to be. I don't want to be, and
Okay.
I'm very glad if I can do these three things in a day properly, I'm done. I don't want to do more than that. So I think that has really helped me. If you would have asked me this before kids, I would have never answered this. I would have answered this differently, because I was a different person. But
Okay.
after the children, like I said, while I've continued to remain very organized, but I've also continued to be a little kinder to myself, and not not like really. I'm still driven, so I still am very driven with what I really want to do. But I'm also a little relaxed in my mind, that I don't get hassled if I don't do five things or 10 things. I'm okay.
Right.
I've slowed down in my mind, and I'm going to do these two three things. The rest can do happen tomorrow. So I think
Right.
that has really helped me manage multiple things, at any given point
That is such beautiful advice, Simran, that so many of us really need that,
in
you have to
time.
be kinder to self and you have to
Yeah.
have that self-love ki, acha, yes, you know what you
Yes.
say? You're
Yeah.
not a superwoman, you don't have to be
Correct. You don't
superwoman,
have to be
it's
correct.
okay. Right.
Exactly. Everything can wait. It's not like, I mean, you'll just burn yourself out, frankly, if you do that.
Correct. So true. So, Simran, the role of Facebook, the role of social media has played a
Huge role.
huge impact, yeah, with
Yeah.
your wonderful community. So, tell us all about it. Tell us the journey. Tell us everything about it, and how will this help other people so that you can, shed some light
Yeah.
or this. Bataiye.
So I mean, I started the Facebook community in 2014, November 2014. And I
Okay.
started it because I realized that, I mean, I was going to Google and looking for information when I wanted healthy baking recipes. And
Right.
I would,
Right.
hit a range of options, none of which worked, for a couple of reasons.
Okay.
One is that a lot of the ingredients were not available in the Indian market. So you would get blogs which had lovely recipes, and none of those ingredients would be available in the Indian market. Okay.
Yeah.
And the second was that a lot of the things that were that were available, I mean, you wouldn't have a lot of people who had tried those, so you had nobody who was saying that, I've tried this and this is how it works. So there was no
Right.
reviewed or rated information about, things that have been tried and tested. So with that in
Correct.
mind, I realized that there is no one single place where people can come and talk about healthy baking from the perspective of working with alternative flours and share the experience, either of it
Right.
working, either of it not working, and also asking questions. Okay. And
Right.
lastly, something which is quick and easy for people like me, it was very important because I was working full time, and I was also, like I said, new to baking, right? I'm not a trained baker. I've not done it for
Right.
20, 30 years. I want something which is nutritious, quick, and easy to understand. I don't want to spend 5 hours in the kitchen. So that was where I, realized that's when I realized that maybe let me start creating a community on Facebook, because Facebook was the most readily available option at that point in time, which
Hmm.
gave you a lot of features, so you could do things, you could post, you could interact, you could have some polls, so you had all of those features which would allow you to sort of create a space where some level of interaction was possible.
Hmm.
And I thought that let me start sharing my information there about what I'm trying, what I'm doing, and slowly people will start adding their information, their
Right.
experience. They'll be comfortable asking questions, and that's how
Hmm.
the community started. So the Wonderful Mom Bakers community started like that. And
Yeah.
let me also clarify that it's called Mom Bakers communities, but we have community, but we have dads who bake on it, and we also have
Oh,
people,
right.
and we also have women who are not married and who don't have kids, who are on
Okay.
it as well. Because the
Okay.
reason I named it as a Wonderful Mom Bakers community was because when I started it, there were only moms, but then
Okay.
once it started growing, there were so many people who were interested in healthy baking that it was
Hmm.
just it was unreal, so you just could not tell them that, what, you're not a mother, so you shouldn't be. And I found it very I would have found it very excluding, to do that.
Yeah.
So
You
I
have to be inclusive, otherwise you'll
yes,
get
yes.
cancelled.
Yeah. So I said, see, if you're interested in healthy baking, so then I started clapping. I said, see, but it was too well known as OMBC, as a Wonderful Mom Bakers community, for me to change the name.
Right.
So I said, if you're
Right.
okay with it, if you're okay with being a dad on this community, I'm okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So I have
Yeah.
no issues, So
Right.
but you need to just be interested in healthy baking, and you need, whenever you feel comfortable sharing your healthy baking experiences or your
Yeah.
questions, just feel free to do that. So that's how the
Correct.
community kept growing. And it started growing with with a small set of people who were just friends, family friends, and then it, by word of mouth, it started becoming bigger and larger. And then in the first year, I felt that since I'm so closely linked to social impact work with Oh Wonderful, let me try and float this idea on the groups,
Mm.
on OMBC, see how,
Right.
what kind of reaction I get, and if
Right.
there are people
Right.
who are interested, even if there are a couple of bakers who are interested, we can get something done collectively, so
Mm.
there can be bigger impact through what we do together. So
Correct.
with that in mind, I shared an idea, and we still call it, we're doing it every year, we call it Baker Sunshine Cake. So every December, that month of December is kept aside basically for us to bake for old age homes, or for children who are in either in homes or on the streets or in construction
Wow.
sites, so people who, I mean, I have to, I don't know how to explain, we've gone, I mean, I've walked on traffic signals and given cupcakes and explained that this is healthy,
It's
so
fun.
we've done, so
Mm.
it was just unbelievable when I shared it on the group. And we were very small at that time, so like I said, we were, I think 3-4 thousand members. And we
Three,
and
four thousand only.
I'm thinking now, I mean, it's like
It's
a
big.
relatively, yeah, it's
Yeah.
huge now. So, and with that number, I didn't expect people to be that interested. And I saw that so many bakers came forward across different cities in India. I was in Bangalore that time, so we had people from Bangalore, Delhi. I saw people from Calcutta, people from Pune, Hyderabad, Mumbai, all of these cities
Right.
for sure, Coimbatore,
Right. Right.
and there were some bakers in the US, some bakers in
Yeah.
UK who also
Yeah.
carried it out. They took special
Okay.
permission, because what happens in these countries is, like, here we can still go ahead with a bake to a old age home, okay, and give it. There you need to
Yeah.
take special permission if you carry in food to an elder care home. So they took special
Okay.
permission, they explained what this initiative is, and then they went and did it. you know so
Wow.
that made me realize that it's everybody wants to do something, everybody wants to do something good, and the intentions are there, the spirit is there, the passion is there. They just need a channel, they just need
Got it.
some idea, some goal, some clear vision saying, this is what you can do. Okay, so
Right.
so that is how I started. I only had one condition. I said the only condition is it has to be healthy. Okay, so what you will
Right.
not feed
Right.
your kids, you will not feed anybody else. Okay,
Right.
so
Right.
that, with that whole thing in mind, we started Bake a Sunshine Cake, which was our first social impact initiative. And thereon, and this was in when we completed 1 year of OMBC, so in November 2015. 5 years hence, I think we are doing social impact initiatives every single month, not just every single year, every
Wow.
single month, and three different
Wow.
kinds. So we do direct distribution, we do fundraising, we fundraise for cat shelters which have been broken down by storms. We have
Okay.
done we've done fundraising for
Mm.
children who need to go to a summer camp, but they can't afford it. We've done fundraising for children who are impacted by AIDS, for their medical camps. So fundraising, basically, we do a bake sale, we sell those bakes, and we donate those funds. So we do. So that's the second way, and the third way is where we worked with an NGO called the Freedom Project India. So the Freedom
Okay.
Project India is essentially a body which is also monitored by the UN, United Nations. It focuses on rescuing and rehabilitating women and children from human trafficking and sex trade. And they work very strongly across India. Their office, their operation, their primary operations in India start from Bangalore. And
Mm-hmm.
the lady, the founder there, Anita, had reached out saying that, we have 7 or 8 girls. We've rescued them. They are under a lot of mental trauma. We're trying to do their counseling, but they are very high risk in the sense that they can get pulled back into their life very easily because they're vulnerable and they have no source of financial, independence. So I said, so what is your plan? So what she told me was, our plan is to set up a baking cooperative. So at that stage, we didn't have, I also didn't have an idea of how long this journey with them is going to be, and I thought that maybe because she only told me that, at this point in time, what I need help from you is, for if any of your bakers have extra baking equipment, we can't afford it. So if you have, I have the
Yeah.
space, can you
Yeah.
donate? We crowdsourced every single thing. We crowdsourced the baking pans, we crowdsourced the, muffin trays, muffin tins. I mean, you name the baking
Wow.
equipment and we had everything. We had ovens, which were donated. So we had,
Wow.
so we just made sure that every baker, I had a spreadsheet. I'd made a note of how many pieces of what we have, measuring cups, every single thing which we could donate, crowdsourced, new and, some of it used but in good condition.
Right.
We sent all of that. We got everything sent to their safe home, where the
Huh.
girls were going to start their baking journey. Then she
Right.
came back and she said that, why don't you do something more with us? Maybe do, at least at this point in time, because the girls are not trained, can you do a little bit of fundraising for us by baking cupcakes for us? So your bakers can get together, bake the cupcakes, we will distribute them, the NGO will distribute, and we will talk about our baking cooperative that's going to come up. Okay.
Wow.
So I said, that's fine, we can do that. So we baked 6,000 cupcakes, I mean, all of us together. And and they went and sold it in the they went to corporates, they went to church setups, they went to many places and schools, and they sold those, and they spoke about how their cooperative is going to come about. And then finally,
Right.
she got back to me and said, Simran, now I need the biggest help, which is basically to train these girls. I said, but we are not like, I said, we are all amateurs, frankly, So I said,
Right.
you start with me. I've just taught myself. I don't have a degree, and
Right.
I'm not a trained baker. She said, that's all
Right.
right. If you can just, whatever you've learned, in healthy baking, if you can even teach some of that to these girls, and some of your community members can come up and teach them, she's like, that will get them started. So many of us, in fact, I remember 7 or 10 of us actually in turns. Somebody would go and teach them one type of icing. Somebody would go and teach them one type of baking. I went and taught them one type of cake with, atta and alternative sugars. So, I mean, all of us went and taught them healthy baking, techniques, ideas, baked with them, to get them started. And after we did that, we realized, at least I realized that, this is, a full circle, that we have come. That, so many of us have started, baking just for
Sorry.
passion, just for, for maybe a hobby. And then we have baked for our families. And now we are baking to actually make these girls independent, and I mean, I could have never imagined that OMC or us or I myself personally would have been able to make that journey, So when I
Right.
saw that
Right.
baking cooperative launch 2 years back, I mean, it's just
Wow.
not possible to put it into words, And I'm so glad that,
Right.
we had
This
a small
happened.
role, we had a small role to play, but
Right.
I think, from being just, I realized that we have transitioned beyond being just a virtual community. I think that is where I realized that, there is so much power in creating a network, okay, where you can transcend the virtual, or at least create a culture virtually also, where people are ready to step up, physically. I just took one message on that group saying that I just had one message on that group saying I'm going to Fraser Town, which is where the safe house and the baking
Yeah.
setup was. I said, I'm going to Fraser Town to teach these girls on this day. We need 10 bakers. These are the 10 days. And I had more than 10 bakers, and I said, they don't have more time. So the
Oh.
point is that, I think that is where, I felt very nice that, at least, I have a community which is not just a virtual community, which is which is, which is not connected. I think social media
Yeah.
is not as impersonal a space as I think we think about it from that point of
Right.
view. But
Right.
it takes a lot of work. Yeah, it took a lot of work in the last
And
5 years
so,
to get to that
and
to get
and
to that
and
journey.
you, yes, and you have got awarded. Now tell us about that. Tell us about how Facebook found you guys, and tell us
So
how they facilitated you. That is like such a cherry on the cake.
yeah, on the cake. So
Yeah.
basically, so I think Facebook does a lot of analytics at the back, and what they do is they track communities. And this is in 2017, so they decided that they wanted to track women-led communities in Asia, because Asia essentially was their largest market in terms of the number of people joining Facebook communities, joining Facebook groups. That is the largest market. So they wanted to see which communities are doing well, what are they doing well, what are they doing socially. So in order
Yeah.
to check all that, while they were doing that, they must have discovered OMBC. They must have discovered Oh Wonderful Mom Bakers Community. And then they reached out to me in April. The first time they reached out was in April 2017. And they said that, we have an event happening, a launch event happening in Delhi. I was in Bangalore then. And we want to invite you to come for that. We're inviting four communities. That time, there were four communities from across India, which were being invited
Right.
to Delhi to be recognized to speak about the work they were doing
Yeah.
at
Right.
a very large forum, and at a product, they were having a product launch which was going to be shared live across all Facebook platforms globally. So I said that,
Okay.
what, I'm not in a position to travel because I was 7 months pregnant with my daughter. And I said, I won't be able to travel, but if you're okay, then there are two community members who I can nominate can travel on my behalf, and they can explain all the initiatives, all the work we've done from a social impact point of view, because they've been part of it, and they agreed to that. So two of my community members, they they were taken to Delhi. They flew down to Delhi. They presented there, and they spoke about ONDC, and it was amazing to see us being spoken about so much. And I think that time also we were fairly small. We were 10,000. Okay, so we were not really
Fairly
large.
small.
So fairly small, it was amazing to see that there is so much of impact that we were doing, because when we put together what we were going to talk about, I was preparing them up with all the data, all the information. I realized I have never done that before. I've never actually collated all the data of all the work we have done in the last 3, 4.5 years. And when I was doing it, it hit me that this is so much work. We've been doing so much of it, and because you do it instinctively, because you keep doing it over a period of time, you never make a note of what all you're doing. And that sort of made me feel really nice that we've made that trip. And then later that year, in I have to share this, in September or October of that year, Facebook again got back and said that now we have the same event, but in a more detailed way, and this is our first community event for community leaders in Asia. And we've identified eight women-led communities which are doing very well, of which yours is one, and these are across Asia. And we'd like to invite you to Singapore to present to Sheryl Sandberg. So they just told us, they didn't tell us about Sheryl, they just said we have to present to the leadership of Facebook. And you need to come there, and we'll get you there. We'll bear all the expense, but you'll have to be there. And it was for a couple of days. And so I said, I don't think I can be there again because my daughter's 4 months old. So essentially what happened was to speak to me and to also understand what I was doing and whether it was actually worthwhile to talk to me and get my daughter and me there. I had the country manager, the country head of Singapore, Facebook. She incidentally is an Indian, and she was in India. And she said, if you're in Bangalore, I will meet you first. So she met me in Bangalore, and she said that, she's like, the first thing that struck me was that, and at that point in time, when she came, I was actually, we were in Starbucks, in the cafe, and before she came, I was actually meeting this set of students who I was preparing with for my TEDx talk. So I had a TEDx talk after a few days, and I was preparing for that, and that was the institute that was organizing the talk. So I was talking to them. I was feeding my daughter because she's 4 months old, and when Sandhya, the lady who's the Facebook director, when she walked in, she says that was the first thing that struck me. She said that look at that you're feeding your daughter, and you're having that conversation with the TEDx talk, and you're preparing for your next talk, which is with me. She's like, that point in time, I realized you have to come there. You've got to, she's like, that image just stayed with me. So she said that. So then I had that conversation with her, and then she said, let's, why don't you come over there? So I went to Singapore, and there, they finally, on the last day, they told us, last day, as in the second last day, they told us that Sheryl Sandberg is going to be there. She's the global COO of Facebook. She's read about your community. She's seen the work you've done for all of us, for all 8 of us. And what do share she wants to know more, and she can also guide you on how you can make better impact. So that was an amazing time, because I learned so much from other community members. There was a lady from Indonesia. There were a couple of ladies from Thailand. There were a couple of community leaders from Singapore. So you had people from all over Asia who are out of the state, basically. And it was really nice to interact, to understand that this is basically, like I said, so many people who have, through a virtual network, made so much of difference, and reached out to the world, basically, with just one idea or one thought, and which has grown exponentially. So I think that is where I realized the power of say a virtual or a social community. And then when I got back, the Facebook team called me up and from the US, and they said, we've chosen a few out of those 8. We've chosen a few of you who we want to do a proper short film documentary with. So we will come, we'll send our team from here, and we will shoot it. We'll shoot the entire video. So over a period of 2 days, actually, they shot, my regular, work. So basically how I was baking at home, how I was preparing for a distribution. Coincidentally, it was, around the time we have our Children's Day distribution, where we usually distribute to around 3,000-4,000 children in one stretch, and so that is around that time when, they sort of came down. They did the entire filming of that. They went with me for the distribution,
Wow.
for this NGO, which is called Kritagita Trust, and which works with children in rural communities, touching
Right.
Bangalore, mainly in
Right.
Karnataka.
Right.
So we went for, so they came with me for those distributions. So they recorded basically what, in essence, we were trying to do,
Okay.
and they did a,
Okay.
yeah, and they did a little bit of an interview, which they sort of plugged in, and to get an idea of, what my vision was, why I wanted to do that, why I wanted to continue doing that, so
Wow.
so that's how it, sort of, panned out.
Amazing.
Yeah. So
Amazing. So Simran, this is so inspiring, and what you're saying is that, virtual to physical and then
yeah.
actually making an impact. I think this award must be absolutely well deserved. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you
Okay,
so much.
one more thing that you when you were talking about when you were training these girls, and you said different types of sugars, different type of
Yeah.
techniques, different types
Yeah.
of flours and all that, and you have collected so much data over so many years. So
Yes.
are you going to put this all in one place for
We, we
for
are we
people
have
who
a
would?
we have a healthy baking book series which we are releasing. So, which is a combination of, some recipes, of course, from me, some recipes from a couple of other experts, and largely recipes from 100 bakers from OMBC, specifically
Wow.
curated, evaluated by a panel of, experts, which are going to form three books. So we have a book which is going to be, on gluten-free baking, on vegan baking, on savory, one pot, and sweet,
Okay.
and everywhere the theme is going to be healthy, and, alternative flour, alternative sweeteners, natural sweeteners, unrefined, unprocessed, things. So that's how the book series
Wow.
is panning out. So we are trying to put that, we have knowledge pages there. So our intent also with that is a little bit of a, social impact, perspective. We're trying to raise funds through the proceeds of the books for two NGOs. So we've
Wow.
partnered with this publishing house called Stone Mill, and Stone Mill and OMBC will release this book, in another month or so. We should hopefully, fingers crossed, we should do pre-booking, and we will,
Wow.
raise funds for Swabhiman, which is an NGO that works with the poorest of poor, actually, across, some of the southern states, and, with the an NGO called Lesson, which is called Let's Educate Children in Need, which is,
Okay.
again, a youth-led NGO, which is run by this, set of
Wow.
young, very passionate, college kids who have now graduated in their mid 20s, doing excellent work across
Wow.
North India, in terms of, teaching, setting up schools inside slums, and also taking the ladies who are working in those slums as teachers. So creating a cycle of making them independent and also making sure that the children are studying, and, phenomenal work. So I think we are trying to do that, and of course, make sure that people bake healthy. So give them a ready repository of, these are tried and tested recipes from OMBC. Go, and those recipes are not shared anywhere on OMBC either. So those are
Okay.
absolutely unseen recipes. So we've not
Okay.
really shared, too much of it. Some of it might be shared here and there, but not externally. It's not been shared anywhere as well. So let's see how
But
that goes.
even if it is shared, this is such a ready reckoner, like
Yes,
that okay, if you want to do something in ragi or if you want to do something in,
absolutely.
so it's there because like you said, when you were trying to Google it, there were
Yeah,
things not tried, not tested, no Indian
correct.
ingredients. So I think
Yes,
that's going to be one amazing thing.
yes,
Okay,
absolutely.
coming back to the pandemic, the pandemic has had a huge upsurge in the number of bakers. So it's like
Yeah,
everybody's baking,
everybody's baking.
yeah. So like even if I had to, so we are not a baking family, but like
Yeah,
even if we needed like a baking powder or something at the grocers, in the pandemic, they said, "Madam, वो सब baking का चीजें कुछ मत मांगो, वो सब खत्म हो
mango. Wow.
everything he was sold out of like
Everybody's baking.
yeah, like even at the utensil shop all the baking equipments were gone and everything so it was like this. So what is your advice to all these startup, because I'm sure like they're just into it, and then they've realized that they can kind of make a business out of it. So what is
Yeah,
your advice to all the startup bakers slash home cooks, with social
yeah,
media as well as
yeah.
ingredients or whatever, anything that you want to Tell them.
So I think one is that this space is there are a whole lot of people, right? So I think there are two things which I feel have personally worked for me. One is
Okay.
that you find your niche. Okay, so for me, healthy baking was that niche which came to me after 2-3 years of doing regular baking. I started regular baking in 2010, around that time, and then by the time I was 2013, so 3 years later, I found what was
Yeah.
my true
Niche.
area of work in baking, right? So
Right.
my suggestion would be to find a niche, whatever that is. Find your niche and stick to it. Generalization, I mean, in my opinion, doesn't work. Okay, so you need to be a specialist, and you need to be very good at being a specialist. Okay, so find that niche, okay, which makes you unique. All right, find that and develop that. Learn about that. Keep reskilling, keep upskilling yourself. So I'll give you a little bit of idea. When Oh Wonderful started, it started not the community. Oh Wonderful, the social enterprise. When it started initially. I started it as a blog to blog my recipes. Then when I
Okay.
started doing a little more work in a social impact space, I started working at it from a social impact perspective. It
Hmm.
continued to remain a social enterprise, but I also alternatively did a little bit of selling of healthy foods. I
Hmm.
closed that down and I started doing workshops. Okay, so now the thing is, and I closed it down despite the fact that it was doing very well. In fact, I closed it down because I got bored of selling the same stuff over and over again. So
Okay.
my suggestion is that don't hesitate to do something new. Okay, just because you're doing well in this right now, okay,
Right.
don't hesitate to reinvent yourself. Okay, because you can be very good at it today. Okay, but if you're like me, then you will get bored after a couple of years, and you will want
Right.
to re-evolve, reinvent, do something different with yourself, with your enterprise,
Right.
with your baby. So make sure that you are ready to do that. Because very often people are a little scared to. We're doing so well in this. Why should we actually do something? Close this down and do something different, or
Yeah.
fizzle this out a little and do something different. My suggestion is that the only way to survive is to keep doing something different. Okay,
Yes.
that's the first thing. The second is that I mean, whether you're a small business or whether you scale up to become a large business, you have to be a business with a soul. Okay, so please do not at any point in time do business for profits only. So if you can keep
Oh.
it connected to anything, and I'm not
Yeah.
saying if you love animals. Okay, my husband is actively into animal rescue. If he could donate everything, he would donate everything to animal rescue. Okay, so
Okay.
find that passion. So whatever that cause is, okay, connect your business to it. And keep trying to see how your business can help that. I'm not saying don't make money. I'm just saying that when you make money, do something good, okay, with it. So
Yeah.
I think that is the second thing that I would probably suggest to everybody who's probably working in this space.
So beautiful. That is so good. So good. So, Simran, now this is coming to technical because we've spoken about everything and we've not spoken
Right.
about baking. So,
Yes.
a little bit about like what exactly is healthy baking. So, if you could give us a few tips, like what
Hmm.
exactly do you do, and what is the
So healthy baking essentially is about focusing basically on any flour which is non-refined and non-bleached and non-processed. So basically, if you get
okay,
atta, okay, so no maida, okay. Basically, the first fundamental rule is no maida. Okay.
okay,
Now figure out the alternative flours, and you have a range. So if you're okay with grain-based flours, then whole wheat is there, suji is there. Though suji is still not that great, in terms
hmm,
of its quality of
hmm.
health. But I think whole wheat is there, and you have
Hi.
she's run off.
Okay.
So we
Okay.
have whole wheat, all right. We have oats, okay, which are steel cut oats. You have rye flour, you have amaranth flour. So you have like a range of flours, okay, and the ragi and jowar and bajra and barley. I mean, I can go on, but I think so you have a range of flours to explore. You have nut based flours, okay, so your almond flour, cashew flour, peanut flour, everything is coconut flour, okay. So you have a range of flours to explore, so you can use any of those flours. Okay, that's one. The second is this, if you're baking something sweet, then unrefined sugar. So things like jaggery, okay, so whether it's powder or whether it's liquid, things like coconut sugar. Coconut sugar has a lower GI glycemic index as compared to other forms of sweeteners. So using that, use unrefined raw sugar, okay, khansari sugar. If you get use fruits, okay, as alternatives. Use dates and figs as alternatives, for mildly sweet stuff.
Hmm.
So a range of options are there. New options are there now. Things like brown rice syrup is there. So I mean, I'm just saying the world is basically expanding. There is a lot of range now available. These are all
Yeah.
natural. So this is not something
Right.
unnatural. Your focus essentially should be to make sure that whatever you're picking up. See, my big fundamental principle about healthy baking also is that we are over emphasizing on calories and we are under emphasizing on chemicals. Okay. So
Yeah.
our focus should be manage the calories, okay, manage the calories, but at the same time remove and eliminate the chemicals. Okay, so
Yeah.
your chemicals are highest in your processed flours, your chemicals are highest in additives, your chemicals are highest in everything you pick up in the store, your chemicals are highest in everything which is jarred. Okay, hidden sugars are basically there everywhere. So your fundamental principle should be that let me try and see how can I minimize the use of any form of chemical in my beef. Okay, whether it is through the flour, whether it is through the sugars that we're using.
Right. This is so good. So Yashpal has something very interesting to say. It's time. It's like the times when Tata said, "We also make steel." I mean, so this is like you're saying, yes, we also bake because we had so much to talk about and we didn't talk
Correct.
about baking at all. Nima
Yes.
says super motivated to get back to baking. So this is one of my friends.
Lovely. How nice.
She, yeah, and I was at dinner at her place a couple of weeks
Right.
back, and
Right.
because I'm a vegan, I like to throw my weight around. Oh, I'm a
Correct.
vegan. I'm a vegan.
Uh,
So she made me the most amazing
Yum.
cake with a fruit and custard. I mean,
Lovely. How
no,
nice.
sorry, fresh cream and
Amazing.
everything. Everything was vegan,
Lovely.
cake her cake was spongy as hell, and it was
Yeah,
vegan.
absolutely.
So
I think
yes,
that's the thing about healthy baking that people don't understand. That it can be so good and it can taste, uh, you know, it can taste better actually than regular baking. And I mean that is something which we need to sort of, I keep telling. So when I used to sell many years back, I used to
yeah.
spend more time. I used to spend more time talking to the people who were buying from me, saying that what, you come to me when you change the way you think. Okay, so you come to me with an open mind. Don't come to
Right,
me and ask me that is it going to taste like what it tastes in the bakery, and I will tell you no, it will not. Okay,
yeah,
because if that's what you're looking for, you should not come to me. Okay. So I
right.
think I mean the thing is that I think people come with so much of reservation about healthy baking that it's going to not taste like this. I've had situations where bakers, well-known bakers, I've posted something on a larger baking forum with alternative flours, and bakers said you could have made idli instead of making the cake. Okay, so like I said, because I don't, a lot of people think that I take stuff seriously. I don't. I actually found it very funny. I told them, I said, what, I know what I'm doing, and I'm very happy with what you're doing, and I'm very happy with what I'm doing. Okay, so I wanted to make a
That's
cake with
so
this. This is
good.
a cake. It's not a cake idli. It's not an idli. So I think that mindset is there even with a lot of traditional bakers. But it's all right. Like I said, it's something that I mean, it works for us. I'm sure it will work for them at some point in time.
That is what we're trying to do here, the
Correct.
paradigm shift, because the
Exactly.
paradigm, the dogma is
So
so
loud.
deeply, yeah, so deeply
Absolutely.
engraved that to
Ingrained.
make
Yeah.
it, yeah. So to make
Correct.
the shift is like crazy. So,
Absolutely.
tell us something more. Like, do you have any, like, say, success stories like this? Do you have any success stories where you've had some social impact where
Right.
like the Freedom India project was
Yeah.
absolutely a success story,
Right.
the
Right.
baking cooperative, something
Yeah.
else like this where, you've done that? Please tell us. I mean, it's so inspiring.
So actually there'll be a lot. I'm just trying to think. Okay, so I'll give you what has happened in the lockdown. Let me give you an example of what has happened really in the last few 6, 7 months. Okay, so there's an NGO called HUG. Okay, HUG, and it operates primarily with, like I said, so it basically serves daily meals. Okay, to people who are very poor and who don't have access to daily meals. And alongside HUG, there is an NGO like I said, we are trying to help them even through our book series. Is called Swabhiman, and Swabhiman works with, again, the poorest of poor who are residing in the largest slums primarily across Bangalore. So Venkat, who's the founder of Swabhiman, and a couple of volunteers from HUG had asked me that is it possible for the bakers to send some healthy bakes for people in general, and because they
Okay.
are really nice people, they didn't give me numbers, because they don't want to pressurize me. So and they
Right.
know that I'm going to get upset if we can't get those that many
Yeah, yeah.
bakes, So
Yeah.
so very nicely and very calmly that let's can you get it? So I said, all right, we'll try. And I floated a message on the group, and we started getting some bakers. We started getting some traction. what happened after that is actually a snowball effect, because we had no plan to do it on a daily basis. We had a plan to do it once, because these people had asked us for it once. And I had bakers who would say, Simran, I'm sending it today. And then I would have another message from another baker saying, I'm sending it day after. I had to create a WhatsApp group to the list saying that this week, Monday so and so, Tuesday so and so, Wednesday so and so, these are the things which are going to Venkat, these are the things which are going to Shirley from her, and they are going to distribute to this. So I was like, how is this even possible? What are we? I mean, we have never, like I said, it's just, I don't know what to say. I just, like I said, you just cannot imagine how much kindness there is in this world. I think just unbelievable. And so I was just amazed to see those messages, and we would send it out. Okay, so we were doing this. It started getting into a pattern. Lockdown continued. Venkat would tell me how so many people have actually, the daily wage workers especially, they've lost their jobs. They have no money, and they obviously, because they get paid daily, they have no money, and that they have no food. Okay. So somehow they were managing the rations and the getting NGOs, other donors to give some rations and do all of that and do some cooking in the slum settlements and all of that. Now, one day I just called him up to tell him that, because I felt bad that we are sending them like one muffin or, per person, or one bun per person. Okay. So I said, Venkat, I'm just calling to say that, because we are all home bakers. So we don't have mass level facilities, so at max, any person at any given point in time can bake maybe 100, 200, 300, because we all bake from home. Our ovens are small. We are not commercial bakers, and we are all baking alone. We have small kids, so we try our best. But I'm very sorry that we are able to only bake enough to give maybe one person one piece, okay, at any given point in time. So I had called him to say that, and he turned back and he said, Simran, he's like, now I'm telling you what I didn't want to tell you, because I felt that you're going to feel bad. And he said, there are days when this is the only thing they eat. He said, if you stop sending this, he's like, there are days when they have only that one bun that your baker from OMBC has sent. That's all that they're eating in that day, and he said, so please, because of, you feeling upset that it's just one this thing, he's like, please don't stop it. Please do not, because we will not be able to, feed these people, and I think that, so, I mean, like I said, that is something which I would never have imagined, because you do know that there is difficulty, that they're going through, a tough time, but it's just, no, I don't know how to say this, I just can't say how he actually said it to me, that, it's one meal, one, like, bun. I mean, really, I thought we were doing so less, and he made me realize we were doing, much more than what we actually could have ever done, because, and it was, I don't know, like, we kept doing it, till the time things started opening up, they started going back to their work, and, he would share pictures of how people were waiting on the station, and, they would have, they had nothing to eat, because wo migrant trains or wo sab band ho gayi thi, and suddenly they started opening those trains, and, the buns and the muffins and the cakes, and, these girls, these bakers from the community who were sending it, those are the only things that these people had to eat on the railway station. There was nothing for them to eat, on the stations, that they were waiting for those Shramik Express to come, and for days they were sitting on that station, so so I think he made me realize that, we, like, and I feel this very often, that a lot of people, actually, to be very honest, a lot of people ask me, you guys go around distributing that, what difference does one muffin make, what difference? I said, you have to hear him to know what difference that one muffin makes. You have to hear him to know what difference that one, bun makes, so I can't tell you, it's just that last year has, been tough for us, but I think we have a lot to be grateful for. And, he opened my eyes towards, something which, like I said, I thought we were doing less, but, I still feel we do less. I still feel we can do more. But, I can't explain, I'm so proud of these bakers who, come together every single time, Deepika. There is not a single time, and this is across the country, and even in other markets. So we've done this, even in the Middle East. It was so difficult to get through to a place in the Middle East for these girls to bake and take healthy bakes, inside. They got special permissions, and they went inside and they did it in a school which had differently able children. So, and they spoke in advance that what are these kids allowed to eat, what are they not allowed to eat, what is the, dietary requirement, and they baked according to that.
Wow.
So
Amazing.
I'm just saying that there is so much of very difficult to explain, impact of what we're trying to do.
Yes. Oh my God. We're both crying, and that is
Yeah.
like, that is
on a live
crazy.
on a live show. Never intended to cry on a live show, but
No, but I'm telling you, since you brought this up, there's so much kindness. We are interviewing people who are, from everywhere. Say maybe there is somebody from Ahmedabad, there's somebody from
right.
Surat, there's somebody who are, giving out meals every single day,
Yeah.
and
Correct.
it's like amazing the work that they're
Amazing.
doing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So
Absolutely.
since you just talked about Middle East, tell us in
Yeah.
what all countries is OMBC present?
We are over, in around 15 countries, we are over 200 members, and this is excluding
Okay,
India. And
okay,
and if we have around another 5 countries which will have 100 odd members, so around 20 countries we definitely have some presence. In
wow,
15 countries it's significant, and in another 5 countries it's relatively smaller.
okay,
So
so good.
so basically, so we have a lot of people in Australia. We have a lot of bakers in Singapore, in the Middle East. We have a lot of bakers. We have a lot of bakers in the US, all over the US actually. We have
Wow,
bakers from South Africa. We have bakers in Sri Lanka. We have bakers in Canada. We have bakers in UK. So we have
so
bakers
beautiful,
everywhere, all over the place.
so
And of course,
beautiful.
India, all over. Yeah,
India, of course, India
of
is
course,
there.
yeah.
So we are almost close to 51 minutes. So just before we're going to wrap this up, I want to
Sure.
say everybody that is joining us from O Wonderful and Simran's side, please follow the page paradigmshift.co, because we bring amazing, inspiring, awesome stories, motivating stories like Simran's. And हम लोग baking छोड़ के we did everything else. You
Everything else.
talked about everything else, and you guys are seriously made of steel. The work that you guys are doing is
Thank
amazing.
you.
Continue. God bless. It's beautiful. And
Thank
everybody
you.
that is joining us from the Paradigm Shift, please follow Simran's wonderful mom baking community, because
Thank you.
they're doing such great job. And everybody, I think Anju, Anjani, Nimma, all these people, they're all great bakers. So they should,
Right.
Mona Rathore, the one who gave
Lovely.
me your I'm
Right.
sure she's already on your group.
She must be.
So
Yes,
please
absolutely.
yeah, so join this group and make an impact. That'll be so good. So any last message for our viewers, Simran?
Um, I mean, I again the same thing that if I can do it, anybody can. Frankly, so you've seen my journey. I didn't know how to cook, didn't know how to bake anything till
Right,
2007. I taught
right,
myself to cook. I taught myself, so it's basically about surviving, and then it became about
right,
what was important for the kids.
right.
So I think if you find a strong enough reason, you're going to do it. So you just need to find a strong enough reason to, make you do something you've never done in your life,
Okay,
and you will continue to do it. And I mean, you never know if I didn't start baking healthy baking thinking it's going to be my passion, thinking it's going to become my calling in life, but it did.
right.
So, it really, so give that shot to everything that, you've thought you may never be able to do it. It might actually turn out to be your calling.
Beautiful. And make that paradigm shift. And
Make
it
that
is,
very important to make that shift. Don't be, like I said, I'm trained to be an HR consultant. So let me share that with you. Trained to be an HR consultant. Been in an, I mean, very comfortable, cushy, we're working very hard, but in comfortable, cushy HR jobs,
right,
consulting roles, and not, like I said, nowhere near the food industry or anything. So, it's just, you really need to make that shift, and you need to have that, courage to continue doing it.
right. One more question. In your bio, you had said that you conduct workshops with all these
Yeah.
corporate this. So what are these
Yeah.
workshops about?
So, so I do healthy baking workshops. So some of them are awareness related. Some of them are related to having an awareness plus a demo. So in the last series that I did earlier this week, I was doing it with some corporates about how, different for different life stages at which women need different kinds of nutrition, because this was the Women's Day week. So different life stages of women and what are the kind of nutrition needs, and then tie it up with healthy baking. So
Okay,
how do you incorporate
okay,
healthy baking into your regular eating consumption patterns? How do you include those nutrients into your healthy baking and then into your consumption? So
oh, how nice.
primarily, yeah. So and then of course for picky eaters. So I do workshops with, for parents with basically corporates, who about, young professionals, quick, easy recipes which are easy to bake. Of course, the theme continues to remain healthy baking, but different demographics, so people with different
Okay.
demographics.
So my husband just come online and he says, my wife also bakes dot 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 me.
You should be on OMBC.
So actually, I'm going to ask him to join
Yes,
this
please,
because
please ask him to join. Yes.
he's he bakes well. I mean,
Wow.
when half of my family was not vegan, so
Right.
he used to do the most amazing chicken pies and the most
Wow.
amazing rolls and
Rules.
everything. And now he's just kind of like given up on life. "Ye kya hai? No, I can't be doing vegan," and he hates. So in fact,
But
he
the group
needs
is
that.
not vegan, so he can easily. I also, I mean, I'm vegan, but my kids are not. My husband is not. So I bake a lot of non-vegetarian, and the group has a lot of non-veg stuff. So there's no
Yeah,
reason for him to stop his baking. He can easily join.
he hates baking with olive oil. He wants to
Oh,
use
acha,
butter, and
acha,
he
acha.
loves doing
So
the
butter is not.
non-vegan
So
stuff.
I mean, we'll have this conversation another day. But butter is not a bad word, and ghee is also not a bad word.
Right, right. So thank you so much, Simran. This has been
Most welcome.
such a beautiful conversation, and
Most welcome
we're
anytime.
looking forward. We're looking forward for those books that are coming. So please
Definitely.
let us
Very
know,
soon.
and you will share the link here so that we can also be a part of your little part of your social impact.
Absolutely. Anytime.
That'll be amazing. And we're going to share the story, the video, the beautiful video that Facebook made about your community. So which will be
Yeah.
really nice. We'll put it down in the
Sure.
links below,
Sure.
right?
Sure.
Thank you so
Okay.
much,
Thank you
Simran.
so
Thank
much.
you.
Thank
Bye
you.
bye.
Take care,
Bye.
Deepika. Bye bye.
You too. Bye.